consecutive years. Every motorcycle that crossed the finish line first in MotoGP, the premier class of motorcycle racing, the most technically demanding and most globally watched motorsport championship in the world after Formula One, was a Ducati. And every time Francesco Bagnaia or Enea Bastianini or Jorge Martin crossed the finish line in first place on a machine built in a factory in Borgo Panigale, just outside Bologna in northern Italy, approximately 3,000 people walked into Ducati dealerships around the world the following week and made an inquiry about buying one. Not because they can ride at 220 miles per hour on public roads, they cannot, but because the racing wind transferred something to the road motorcycle that no advertising campaign at any budget has ever been able to manufacture artificially. The visceral, irrational, deeply felt conviction that the machine they are considering buying is the best motorcycle in the world. And today I'm going to decode the economics of the company that has turned racing dominance into the most efficient aspirational marketing engine in the global motorcycle industry, and the German automotive conglomerate that quietly owns all of it, and most Ducati enthusiasts do not know exist. The ownership secret that changes everything. Here's the first economic fact about Ducati that surprises most motorcycle enthusiasts who consider themselves knowledgeable about the brand. Ducati is not an Italian motorcycle company. It is an Italian motorcycle company owned by a German automotive conglomerate in 2012, Automobili Lamborghini Holdings, a subsidiary of Audi AG, which is itself a subsidiary of Volkswagen Group, acquired Ducati Motor Holding for approximately 1.1 billion euros, and Ducati has operated within the Volkswagen Group's premium automotive ecosystem ever since, sharing engineering resources, materials knowledge, electronics platforms, financial stability, and the management expertise of one of the world's largest and most sophisticated industrial organizations. And this ownership structure, which most of the 120,000 people who buy Ducati merchandise per year have never thought about, has fundamentally transformed what Ducati is capable of producing. Before Volkswagen Group, Ducati changed ownership multiple times, passed through the hands of Texas Pacific Group, a private equity firm, in the 1990s and early 2000s, and operated under the financial constraints that private equity ownership typically imposes. After Volkswagen Group, Ducati has had the capital to develop the Panigale V4 engine, one of the most sophisticated motorcycle power plants ever produced, to fund the MotoGP program at the level required to achieve and sustain championship-level performance, and to invest in the factory, the dealer network, and the brand infrastructure that has made Ducati the most aspirational motorcycle brand in the world, the racing economics that fund the road bike sales. Here's the economic mechanism that makes Ducati's MotoGP investment unlike almost any other motorsport sponsorship in the history of motor racing. The direct measurable connection between racing performance and road motorcycle sales. Most motorsport sponsorships are brand awareness investments. They create impressions, generate television time, and hopefully create positive associations that eventually influence purchasing decisions through a chain of effect that is difficult to measure precisely. Ducati's MotoGP investment works differently because the technology developed for MotoGP, the aerodynamic packages, the electronic systems, the engine management, the tire management strategies, transfers directly to the production motorcycles that Ducati sells to consumers, and the consumer who sits on a Ducati Panigale V4 at a dealership and reads that the engine architecture is derived from the MotoGP prototype, and that the electronic system includes cornering ABS and traction control developed on the racing program, is not buying a car that has a vague association with a racing team's livery. They are buying a direct descendant of the machine that won the world championship, and that story, that direct technical lineage, is the most powerful sales tool in the motorcycle industry, the Desmodromic engine economics that create perpetual revenue. Here is the engineering decision that Ettore Ducati's original engineers made in the 1950s, and that has shaped Ducati's business economics ever since, in ways that most buyers do not fully appreciate at the moment of purchase. Ducati uses a valve actuation system called Desmodromic, in which the valves are opened and closed by mechanical cam followers rather than the return springs used in virtually every other production motorcycle engine. The Desmodromic system allows higher rev limits, more precise valve control, and superior performance at the high rotational speeds that Ducati's V-twin and V4 engines achieve. But it requires a service procedure, called the Desmo service, that is specific to Ducati, requires Ducati-trained technicians, Ducati-specific tools, and Ducati-sourced components, and must be performed at intervals defined by Ducati, typically annually or every 6,000 to 12,000 miles depending on the model. The Desmo service costs between $600 and $2,000 depending on the model and the market, and every Ducati owner, from the entry-level monster buyer to the Superleggera V4 owner who paid $100,000 for their motorcycle, must return to a Ducati authorized dealer for this service, or risk voiding their warranty and potentially operating outside the engineering parameters that the Desmodromic system requires. This creates a recurring revenue relationship between Ducati and its customers that has no equivalent in any competing motorcycle brand, and that generates approximately 15 to 20% of Ducati's total annual revenue from service and parts, entirely independently of new bike sales, the limited edition economics that manufacturers desire. Here's the pricing strategy that Ducati has perfected, and that has allowed it to expand its average selling price dramatically over the last decade while maintaining waiting lists for the most exclusive models. Limited production runs of motorcycles that push the boundaries of what is technically possible and legally road registerable. Create a collector market that drives aspiration for the entire lineup. The Ducati Superleggera 5.4, a carbon fiber bodied, MotoGP derived superbike limited to 500 units globally, priced at $100,000, sold out within hours of opening orders. The Panigale 5.4R, the homologation special required to race in World Superbike, priced at approximately $50,000 to $70,000, commands waiting lists in every market. And the psychological effect of these limited editions on the perception of the entire Ducati range is to make a $22,000 Panigale 5.4 feel like an accessible version of something extraordinary, rather than simply an expensive motorcycle. It is the same strategy that Ferrari employs with the LaFerrari and the SP series, that Rolls-Royce employs with the Boat Tail, and that Patek Philippe employs with the Grand Complications. The pinnacle product elevates everything below it, the VW Group synergies that most people never see. Here's the economic advantage that Volkswagen Group ownership provides to Ducati. That goes beyond the financial stability and investment capital that most people assume are the primary benefits. Lamborghini and Ducati share engineering resources in composites and advanced materials. Carbon fiber manufacturing knowledge developed for Lamborghini's carbon monocoque chassis has informed Ducati's use of carbon fiber in the Superleggera program. The electronic suppliers that develop systems for Audi and Lamborghini are the same suppliers that develop the cornering ABS and electronic suspension systems in Ducati road motorcycles, and the manufacturing discipline, the quality management systems, the supply chain management practices that make Volkswagen Group one of the most operationally sophisticated manufacturers in the world, have been implemented in the Bologna factory in ways that have improved consistency and quality significantly since the 2012 acquisition. The result is that Ducati in 2026 produces motorcycles of a technical sophistication and manufacturing quality that the Ducati of 2005 or 2010 could not have achieved, even with the same talented engineering team, because the resources and the institutional knowledge of a 250 billion euro conglomerate are now available to a company that was previously constrained by the financial limitations of private equity ownership. The complete economics in 2026. Here's what the full financial picture of Ducati looks like as a business within the Volkswagen Group structure. Annual motorcycle production of approximately 55,000 to 65,000 units, at an average selling price of approximately $20,000 to $25,000. Generates annual motorcycle revenue of approximately $1.1 to $1.4 billion. Aftermarket parts and accessories contribute approximately $200 million. Service revenue from the Desmo network contributes approximately $150 million. Licensing merchandise and DRE riding school revenue contributes approximately $50 million. Total annual revenue approximately $1.5 billion. At an operating margin of approximately 12%. Annual operating income of approximately $180 million on the 1.1 billion euro acquisition price. That is an annual return of approximately 16%. Which is a very good return on a brand acquisition. And Ducati's brand value, which was estimated at approximately 600 million euros at acquisition, is now estimated by brand consultancies at approximately 2 to 3 billion euros, making Volkswagen Group's Ducati acquisition not quite BMW's Rolls-Royce at 25,000% return, but a genuinely excellent brand investment that has appreciated significantly over 12 years. Jake walks through the Ducati Bologna factory on a tour organized through the DRE Riding School. Past the assembly line where 55,000 motorcycles are hand inspected annually, past the racing department where the MotoGP prototypes are built, past the wall of championship trophies that covers the history of the brand from the first racing wins in the 1950s to the 4 consecutive MotoGP Constructors' Championships that the trophy case displays most prominently, and understands for the first time that Ducati is not a motorcycle company in the conventional sense. It is a brand that uses motorcycles as the physical manifestation of an engineering philosophy, and racing as the proof that the philosophy works, and the Desmodromic valve system as the mechanism that keeps every customer in conversation with the brand for as long as they ride, and that the German conglomerate that paid 1.1 billion euros to own all of it paid exactly the right price for one of the most economically elegant brand businesses in the history of motorsport. You have been decoded. If this video made you see Ducati differently, not as a motorcycle company, but as a brand ecosystem built around technical excellence and racing proof, subscribe to Money Decoder 3004. Every single week, we decode the economics of the brands and businesses most people interact with as fans, and most investors never fully understand. Simply, honestly, and clearly, drop a comment below. Do you think Volkswagen Group made the right decision buying Ducati for 1.1 billion euros in 2012? Tell me below. I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next decode.